Hey, everybody, welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, the podcast where I can no longer afford time to shower. So the last few times I've been on one of these things, I've just been like, I'm going to put on a hat and just keep on wearing the shirt that I wore to the gym because I no longer have time. Just so many words lately. But today's guest is going to be perennial favorite, Joanna Penn, who's going to class this joint up a little bit. She's going to help remove some of the blokishness while using words like bloke. So I'm very, very happy about that.
Wow, that's a triple threat.
It really is. So that's what's going on today. And she's going to talk to us about, she's got a book coming out, The Author Mindset. And so we're going to talk mindset, which is less foo-foo than you may think. It really makes a difference on.
Well, it could be foo-foo from the wrong person, but.
Dave? Oh, you mean Dave looking at it might say that it's foo-foo. That's what I thought you meant.
Well, no. I mean, it can be an airy concept, but it's not from Joanna. Like
this is Joanna we're talking
right.
about.
Like she's very practical, and I strongly believe in the right author mindset, and I think you're kind of crippled without it.
So, who wants to go first on something cool?
I've got something, but Dave, ladies first. Do you want to go?
Thanks. The most recent episode of Mr. Robot. Yeah, and I can't talk about Mr. Robot without spoiling it. And in the comments, don't spoil it because Sean and Johnny are still like in season 1. My God,
I haven't even started it.
What? Oh,
I was just saying I was about to start it last night and I didn't.
Okay. Well, I just want to say it's an awesome show. A couple weeks ago, they did a thing where they began the show as like an 80s sitcom, like shot as it was like in a 480 square box sort of. It was totally like a head trip.
That's really awesome. And
in the most recent episode, I didn't think they could surprise viewers again, and they did in a way. And I can't talk about it. So it's a show you want to.
Wow, you're
fucking watch
a lot of rambling.
The show's just so awesome. They do everything right. It's awesome. And if you're not watching the show, go catch up and then hurry up and catch up with season 2.
It's on USA, right?
It's on USA.
Yeah, and season 1 just dropped on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, which is where I was going to watch it.
Watch it all, binge it, and then catch up with season 2 because I want to talk about it.
Yeah, I'll do that soon. I got the affair.
You read Harry Potter.
Yeah, when are you going to read Harry Potter?
You guys aren't burning to talk about Harry Potter. This is something that we can all talk about because it's so trippy.
Constantly prohibited from mentioning things like from 20 years ago.
Yeah, mine's something to watch too. Do you guys know Bo Burnham? I know Dave does actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you know Bo Burnham, Johnny?
Personally,
it sounds familiar.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's so funny. But what I really liked is just watching his rise. Cindy and I used to watch him when he just did like YouTube videos from his bedroom when he was a kid.
Okay, that's creepy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it is creepy.
We used to watch him on YouTube in his bedroom.
Yeah, well, he was always very knowing. So he was maybe 16 or 17 when he started, and he's 25, going on 26 now. They were always funny. Like he would do these acoustic songs either with his piano or with his guitar, and they were always like really subversive. Like KKK Cookout was one that I remember that was obnoxious but funny. And so he's just kind of like had a pretty nice trajectory, and he has a Netflix special that just came out. I think a couple of weeks ago, and we just watched it a couple of nights ago. And he's really funny. He's a really smart guy, and his humor is like he does songs, he does stand up, lots and lots of wordplay. Johnny, I think you'll especially like him. I think I thought of you. I watched 2 things that night back to back because it was actually date night. And we went out and it was raining really hard. And so we came back home early and just finished date night in our bedroom.
Oh, I'll bet you did.
Good night, everybody. And then we just went in there and we watched Tony Robbins' I Am Not Your Guru. Have you seen that? Which clearly led to some
Why did Dave leave before you mentioned this?
That's how you warm your wife up with Tony Robbins?
Don't you remember the time when Sean said that he and Cindy laid in bed and held hands and like listened to Unicorn Western audiobook or something?
Yeah, like we're a happy couple. What the fuck? Anyway, that was really cool. And the whole time I was watching that, I was thinking of Dave. I was like, oh man, Dave would be so cynical over all of this. It was just crazy. And then the whole time I was watching Bo Burnham, I was thinking of Johnny. Like, oh, Johnny, think this is very, very funny. So I highly suggest that Dave watch I Am Not Your Guru and you watch.
So basically, while you were in bed, you were thinking of your other two wives.
That's correct. Yes, that's absolutely what happened. Yes, that is definitely what happened. So,
why don't we just all get in bed together when I move there?
I did just get a king.
We need a double king.
Now's the time.
And not a king-size bed.
So, Johnny, anything cool?
Yeah, I'm gonna really cheat. So it's because we've already mentioned it like ad nauseum, and it's the Indie Fiction podcast launching on Monday. That's just kind of super cool to see what's going to happen with that, because it really kind of is a new thing. Like, we're going to see if we can do some marketing funnels with audiobooks and see if we can, send people toward the rest of our catalog and build a name for us. And in addition, actually, this is kind of cool too. So I'll actually mention this as a by the way of mentioning the Indie Fiction podcast and so forth. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. And do you remember that really long email we got from a guy? And I want to say his name was Adam.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it was really long. And I was just reading this and I was thinking, here's a guy who, I couldn't. He probably bought Write, Publish, Repeat. I think he said he'd get the Udemy course, but he might have gotten that for free as a list ad. So, I mean, max out, I figure he spent $15 with us, at most. But he may have not spent a cent. And he was going on and on about all the things that have changed. And he says, I'm listening to SPP and I'm inspired in this way. And I was able to quit my job. And not because he's making a ton of money, but just because he's doing other stuff. And I thought, isn't that kind of cool that we're able to put things out there for free that make that big of a difference? Because sometimes we get shit for charging for things, and it's well, yeah, but we also do things for free, and I love seeing things like that. But I thought of that with the Indie Fiction podcast, where it's okay, so you want to get our new book, Dead City, you want to hear a professional quality audiobook read by one of the top narrators in the business, it's free. And that's just super cool. I just can't wait to see that. So if you guys haven't seen that yet, sterlingandstone.net/IFP. And it's also up on, Stitcher and iTunes and stuff now. So you can actually subscribe to the podcast. And I just can't wait. That officially debuts next week. And then it starts with daily episodes the week after that.
Well, I'm just thrilled with that because that book's a year old now. And it's exciting to finally
I feel like the book itself has huge potential that we've just sat on.
Right. And we haven't been able to do that. I really want to start thinking about the sequels, but that feels impossible when the original is just kind of in hibernation. So it's nice that the Indie Fiction podcast is finally realized after an hour and a half of brain farting, and Dead City is finally going to be out there after a year of sitting on it. So yeah, that's really exciting.
So, that's it for something cools. I feel like I think maybe we're a little more efficient today. I don't know.
Well, it's because Joanna's coming on and we're trying to impress her.
We're trying to, I'm telling you, she's going to class it up. But I will say.
Somebody class this place up.
I know. Well, Dave,
I bet she showered.
We're all going to stink.
Not me. I just showered.
Ooh, say more. Say it slowly.
So
for classing it up. So Dave, if you were showering naked and you suddenly needed to advertise that in some visual medium, is there a service you could go to?
Well, the only people I would trust with images of my naked body. Oh, hello, Joanna.
Right as Joanna comes in as Dave starts saying that exactly. Love it.
Are the fine designers at 99designs.com/SPP. That is where you want to go. If you want to advertise your naked showering, or maybe you want to create a book cover. I know that's a crazy idea. That is where you'd like to go, because they have a ton of designers that can work magic with whatever you have.
Have we talked about Dave's new upcoming book, My Naked Ass? No? Okay.
Not enough. Scare Joanna away. Come on. So yes, if you want to advertise something, you want to create an ad, you want to have a design for your website, you want something for T-shirts or something, 99 Designs Go there, and they have a ton of designers. They could even make my naked ass look good. I bet. I bet they could. We should take that challenge.
You should. Anybody who wants to handle that, you do that. But the rest of you, to start your custom design today, go to 99designs.com/SPP. And if you use that super special link, you'll get the Power Pack upgrade valued at $99, which will get you more designer time and attention, which means more designers, which means just more pictures in general of Dave's nakedness, which I think that we can all get on board
This will be the week they drop us.
Right. I mean, it's only a matter of time.
I do think that Hitler's probably better than your ass.
But the
Hitler on my ass.
There you go. So, but if you do get a 99 Designs cover and you want to show it to the world, send it to help@sterlingandstone.net, and we're going to put it up on our site. We have a 99 Designs gallery, and you can see that at sterlingandstone.net/99 Designs, which is also where you can go if you want to see the quality that they can
Of Dave's ass. Oh, of their covers too. Yes.
Yes, but many things. So with you know what this reminds me of is there was I think in the old Saturday Night Lives they were going to have like I want to say Gerald Ford on, and they didn't like Gerald Ford, and so they did a bunch of really obnoxious sketches beforehand to embarrass Gerald Ford. And do you remember this? They did like the Fish-O-Matic and stuff. And I'm just thinking Joanna must think we're doing that to her. Because here, this obnoxious read.
I think she's used to our shenanigans by now.
Maybe so, but
I'm definitely used to it.
Don't let her demeanor fool you. She's wild. That's all I'm going to say.
I actually know that. Welcome, Joanna.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. And I have to say, blokes, don't I, this evening?
Yes, you do. And good evening. I know it's still afternoon for us, but you're joining us late, right? That's right. You always got the wine.
It's my Friday night Pinot Noir. Here we go.
That's some serious sacrifice to be on this show on your Friday night, too. A real problem.
So many better places to be.
I know. So welcome to the show. Joanna has a new book coming out, The Author Mindset. And did I get it wrong? You kind of...
Only that it has been out for about 2 months. It was when when I originally emailed you guys, it was coming out, and then you bumped me for important people like audio guests and stuff like that.
Well, I work on archival information. Okay? Once something is written, then it's forever.
Oh, but what's so great about being
we're dead to her now.
I know. Like we weren't already.
Yeah, what's so great is that everything we do is evergreen, right? So it doesn't matter anyway.
It doesn't matter anyway. Yes, thank you. So why, big question. This is from Dave, a caller named Dave, right? To keep him anonymous. Why the hell do we care about mindset, says Dave, who's right next to you in the Zoom screen.
What? Why are you putting that on me?
Oh, don't pretend you didn't say that.
No, I didn't. I would say it if I said it.
You didn't.
Gee, now you're making me look bad.
Well,
okay. Somewhere.
So I'll tell you what, I was actually writing the book when I was over in Austin with you guys. And I actually think you guys sum up quite a lot of this mindset stuff because, yeah.
So it's like how to fix us. Okay.
Well, I think we have the three phases of mindset here too. I mean, Dave has a very specific angle that he takes. And, we're almost like stupidly optimistic, and Dave is Dave. And
let Joanna explain it. Jesus, Sean. My God. You hate women? Is that it?
Okay, so basically, the number one issue with authors in terms of being a creative is self-doubt. And I think we can all agree that comes up quite often in the show with some of your guests, with us as creative, and also from one extreme to the other. So the idea of the book was to go from self-doubt all the way to sort of ambition, which you guys also do, and with fear of failure and sort of anticlimax and dissatisfaction that can sometimes happen on publication. So what I wanted to do is, there's so much talk about the majorly good things or the majorly bad things, but people often think that they are alone in feeling some of this stuff. So what I did was I went through 10 years of my diaries, because it's been 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, since I started writing, and I actually put excerpts from my own journals into the book, and that was the basis of it. And I was actually writing when I was in Austin the chapter on art and fear of failure and self-censorship and all of these things that I've struggled with. And so I was very nervous about putting this book out because my journal entries are very personal. Like, for example, on the launch of my first novel, I cancelled my launch drinks and I was at home crying on my own because I was just so scared of what people would think of me. I'm a nice girl and I put out this dark book, and Dave and I have had these conversations.
Yes.
I'm a dark little girl, really. And
you should hear the dinner conversation we had, by the way. I won't embarrass her by saying it, but oh my God.
Well, this is the thing, right?
Way to avoid it, Dave.
I think, Sean and Johnny, especially, the three of us, a lot of people might think that we just spend all our time being all happy and bubbly and like, woohoo. But actually, that's not true. Well, it's not true for me, for sure. So I wanted to try and be really honest about what goes on behind the scenes. And that's why I wrote the book. And that's what I'm trying to address.
Yeah. And I think all of this stuff is a lot more important than maybe a lot of authors give it credit for, because I think it's easy to say, oh, that's kind of airy-fairy stuff. But you're talking about real things, like imposter syndrome's a really good one. When you start to sell those books and you start to actually, get a little bit of momentum, it's easy to think, do I deserve this? Is my stuff good? Am I just benefiting from Amazon's current algorithms, or do I actually have true fans that are going to stick with me for the next book and the next book after that? And I don't know, our space is really crowded. And I think that the right mindset is one of those things that can keep you ahead of everybody else, because self-doubt it'll drag you down by the ankles.
Yeah, and what was amazing is I was in Thriller Fest in New York a few years ago, and there was a panel, and it was like Lee Child, Sandra Brown, which I'm sure people have heard of, amazing best-selling romantic suspense author, David Morrell, who wrote First Blood, Rambo. There were just Clive Cussler was on this panel, R.L. Stein, Bob Stein, who sold over 400 million books.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And this panel, they all said, one author put a hand up and said, I'm really scared about putting my book out. And they all said, I still feel that after 40 books, after 40 years, after 400 books. When I finish my manuscript, I am still scared about what people will think. And that made a huge difference to me, knowing that this is just part of the creative process. And sure, you have to suck it up because it is part of the creative process, but putting those real emotions and those real experiences into our work, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or our podcast or whatever, is what connects us with people. And what, I know you guys put your emotions and your thoughts into your fiction, and that's what connects. So yeah, the rah-rah stuff connects, but the dark stuff connects, which is why you guys need Dave on your show.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people connect to Dave much more easily than me or Johnny, because we have less doubt. It doesn't mean that we do have doubt and we do have fear, and we think, okay, is this a good idea or is this a bad idea? But our tendency is to look at the things that we're afraid of and run faster towards them, because that's what's going to stretch our muscles. That's how we're going to grow. That's how we're going to fail and then figure it out better for next year. But I would never say that we're never afraid of anything, because I think a lot of the stuff that we do makes us gulp and worry, and we have to calibrate after that. But I do think that it is the one thing that can really slow an author down. Dave, do you want, I know it's out there because you sent that email a couple weeks ago, but that was, that was really insight into you. Do you want to talk at all about that? Because you did have to outrun doubt, a lot of it this year.
Well, yeah, for a good chunk of this year, I've been battling depression, and it's one of those things where it almost feels like I should not be allowed to have depression, because I've already, quote, made it as a writer. I'm not like Stephen King, but my books are selling. I'm making a living doing what I want to do. So I don't really have a right to feel bad about that in my mind. Yet I could not help I just felt absolutely awful in many ways, just depression, like not even just like bad mood, but prolonged depression where I felt like hell. And it's one of those things I struggle with on and off throughout my life. But this time it was pretty bad because I was trying to get Available Darkness done, and the book 3, the final book in the series, and the depression was just hitting me hard, and I hated everything I wrote about it. And I basically rebooted. I started completely over, and I threw off. We had. I mean, it's no. I've missed deadlines before, so this isn't a huge deal. But we were going to release something new every month this year, and the pressure that was on me, not from Sean, but just internal pressure to get this done and be on schedule, just overwhelmed me. And I said, "Fuck it." I said the story is more important than the deadline, and I started over from scratch. And I feel I worked through the depression. But it wasn't until I was like, getting this closer to done that I started to feel a little bit better. But it overwhelmed me in a lot of ways. Like I was like, this fucking sucks. I hate it. I did not want to finish it. I want to do anything but that book. And I needed to get that book done. And it was very difficult to do while also just feeling like hating everything about myself.
But that's a normal thing.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Well,
Wow.
but that's exactly what Joanna's talking about. It's that, is my stuff good enough? It's not just perfectionism. It's letting your inner critic speak louder than any other part of yourself. And a lot of writers do that. So what's the solution, Joanna?
Well, I do want to just make the point that I think clinical depression is a very different matter. And, if people listening feel like Dave has felt, the word depression, I did a degree in psychology, so I would want people to seek medical help if they need to. So I don't believe that it's just, pick yourself up and get on with it, Dave. I don't believe that is the answer to like proper depression. However, I think actually, I know a lot of horror writers, and a lot of horror writers seem to suffer from depression. And I think they often
Shocker.
But I think the relationship is that then they write their darkness into the book, and that can sometimes bring them through the other side.
It's very cathartic.
Yeah, writing can be very therapeutic. I don't even think it matters your genre. I think that whatever you're writing, and if you're really putting your soul into what you write, it should be therapeutic in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, I think that we have to acknowledge, like I was talking to someone today and they said, I've been on holiday for 3 weeks and I didn't do any writing. And I just felt really guilty. I mean, writing should be fun all the time, right? Like I should feel grateful to do this all the time. And I was like, no, look, chill. There's a lot of guilt in the indie author movement right now. If you're not constantly churning out words, Dave just alluded to it. If you're not, on the one hand, you have to balance hitting the deadlines and putting the work out and earning your living. And on the other hand, the guilt over not doing words on holiday is crazy. So I think this creative balance between the psychological kind of healthiness of being positive, going deep into the darkness and really working with the things that are difficult for you. Like for me, that fear of judgment, like, what will my mother-in-law say? It's a really big deal for some reason. And then combining that with the productivity of getting the words done and out there, these are the things that we're all juggling. And when you put it that way, someone else also said to me, wow, like you think writing is going to be so simple, like you just put words on a page, right? And then you realize that there's so much involved in what we do. And that can be quite overwhelming for people. So I think, and sometimes I just want to say to people, like, hey, stop. Just stop and take a look at everything. Just heads up away from the page, look at your whole life, think about what actually works for you, whether, do you, like Dave did, do I have to get this in next week, in which case I'll just give this in, or will I work from scratch and do something that's true to me? So these types of balancing acts are pretty hard, but I want to point at Johnny, because when I first started online, I did one of Johnny's courses. I think it was like the punk rock guide to something, being hardcore online.
That sounds very Johnny 1.0.
Yeah, Johnny 1.0 was part of my kind of psychological journey into being a creative online. So I know you've got something to say on this, Johnny.
Well, the reason that I started using a pen name in the first place, because in case anybody hasn't figured this out, Johnny B. Truant is not my real name. Which, by the way, is interesting because I've started introducing myself as Johnny down here. And so I just met my daughter's teachers today, and that's just weird. Like, what should I say? So I say Johnny, and it's just very strange. But anyway,
Daddy wants to be called Johnny. It's just play along.
They're just used to it. But the reason that I started,
my dad thinks his name's Johnny.
The reason that I started doing that in the first place was not because I necessarily feared judgment. It's not like I thought people are going to negatively react to me, but I didn't want to consider the issue. You know what I mean? So it's like I didn't even want to get as far as judgment. I didn't even want it to be an issue. And so it was just easier right from the start to say I'm able to create more freely if I just know that that's not going to come up without some digging.
They're not judging me. They're judging this Johnny character.
Well, they're probably never going to run across him. And so I did, like, it's easy to sort of act like I'm standing firm in the face of judgment, but I ran from it too. And I actually have a grandmother who doesn't know what I do for a living. And it's not like I write porn. It's just like, it's like that episode of Friends where the guy is calling Chandler Toby, and it's gone on for so long now that now I can't say anything. And so, I those issues come up for me too, but I was actually going to ask you what your suggestions are for that sort of thing, because I mean, I know how I deal, which is I just deal, and I'm not writing anything terribly scandalous, but what about people who are, or who worry about that sort of thing more than maybe I might?
Yeah, well, actually, one of the practical suggestions that I do put down is use a pen name, which, you know, you do, and many erotica writers do, to avoid things. And like I want to write a book that I think is very political. I'm happily child-free. I know you guys are all happily with children, but being a woman who actively is child-free is actually a really political issue. And, you know, I don't mind talking about it in person, but it's not something I could put out in my name because of the way people I just can't deal with the flack.
Because you would alienate, no matter what you said, you're going to alienate a segment of
someone. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just don't want to go there. So that's something I will choose to put out under another name, because for fear of judgment, yes, for, you know, not wanting to get into that kind of situation.
Well, that's just insurance for your career. Like you're smart enough to realize that why I'm going to be taking money out of my pocket, because there's some people who are going to have a problem with it. But the artist in you wants to say this certain
I need to say this stuff. Yeah.
Sean did a book under a pen name called Hitler Was Right. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, why do we always come back? Why is that so constant?
So
it's just an easy joke.
So, I know. Let's just change the subject. So yes. So going back to self-censorship, no, just on my own issues with self-censorship, I just think I stopped doing it because I got used to, I tried to, like, it's like you push the boundary a little bit and then people react and they read the stuff. And so you push the boundary a bit more and then you realize that you can lean into it. And the fact is now I've met people online and you guys and people who accept me for who I am. So I can do this. And actually what's so great now, like one of the things that I never wanted to share and then I started sharing, and it's amazing, is that I really like graveyards, and now people send me pictures of graveyards all the time, and I get pictures of tombstones and skulls, and it's awesome, and I talk about them on my show. And you know, connecting over death culture is something that I now do, and it's just incredible what happens when you're more honest about who you really are instead of who you think people, you know, want you to be.
I like graveyards too. When I went to upstate New York, it was the first time I'd ever been to like a really old, like Civil War era graveyard, and it was snowing. It was absolutely beautiful. It's the first time I'd seen snow too. So the first time I'd seen two things that I absolutely love. And
wait, when was this the first time you'd seen snow? I have to know the answer to this.
96. Why?
Oh, okay. Just it's a very magical existence that you live. I figure most people have. Okay.
But I was walking around the graveyard and I was just looking at all these just old dates, and there were a lot of like children there. Like it was just amazing amount of years at like 1840, then 1842, and I was like, my God, what tragedy befell these people? And I was just walking around imagining all these tragedies, and it was just like, it was weird. It was, I don't know.
You always walk around imagining tragedies, though. Is that really new? Yeah, Kate Morgan says there's pretty amazing graveyards in New Orleans. Yeah, they're really amazing. Have you been there, Joanna?
I am going there in March. So yeah,
it's
I'm
really
looking
cool.
forward
They're all
to that.
above ground. And,
But just so you know, we have pretty cool ones in Europe too.
well, and I hear they're even older.
Yeah,
Right?
there's some pretty old ones. But hey, one thing I did want to bring up some kind of other things. One thing that was a really difficult chapter was creative dissatisfaction. And I know you guys have been through this too. As in, you think that many people, especially with their first books, think that the moment of publication will be like some kind of pinnacle, and that the day of launch
So isn't.
well, exactly. But what I wanted to ask you and kind of talk about, bring up, is what happens when you've spent all this time. Often people will go, oh, and in fact, pointing at Johnny again with the bagel. What was that called again? The bagel
The
pit.
bagel book.
Well, we don't have Bialy in Britain. I always get confused. I'm like, it's the bagel pimp. But like that
Close
book
enough.
took you so long, and if you had never gone on to write anything else, that possibly would have been creative dissatisfaction and anticlimax.
Yeah, it really would have, because it just kind of, I remember that right before I published that, I don't know, there was a blog post that was going around. I don't know if it was well known or if I just knew it, and where a guy wrote about his experience with Select, where he made, it was before Unlimited, and he made his book free, and then it was selling in the top 10 or something, like, and he made a bunch of money, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make my book free. I have an audience already. I'll just tell them to go buy it. Like, they didn't even, or get it free. It doesn't even matter if they want it. Just go ahead, just get it. Help me out. And yeah, that kind of did nothing. You know what I mean? And so if I didn't keep at it, it would be for certainly financial dissatisfaction. It would be reinforcement of the idea that I can't make money doing this, which I had just gotten over because I did the whole submit to literary agents thing. And it would have been creative dissatisfaction, because I look back on that and it's like, I love that book as my first book, but there's so much that I never would have done. And yeah, so I totally hear you. And I do hear people like, I want to finish this book and then publish it, and then kind of I'm done. And
yeah, ta-da!
Yeah.
Yeah,
Only the
we always
beginning.
say it's so not a finish line. It's just like your arrival at the starting gate for the next thing.
And this is also much harder than anybody gets. Like, yeah, we have success stories, but man, they're rare.
Yeah, and that's why I think in the last couple of years we've really migrated to, because that is probably the most frequent question that we get is, what would you do if you're a brand new writer and you're just starting out?
Mm-hmm.
That and how many words are in a cereal? Those are our two questions. But for the one, like, that's a pretty easy answer now. We've moved to write a few books. Just get 3 books done and then start, because writing that first book and then trying to market that first book while writing a second book and putting up with the disillusionment that first book is not doing what you want it to do, it's a whole different process. And being able to write 3 books and saying, okay, now I'm an author, I'm going to put these out and start my 4th book, I think it sets you up for success, where the other way it sets you up for failure. And that can be like a whole snowball, because I think a lot of the things that we're talking about, like not knowing your community, not knowing, what your voice is, trying to find your voice, your family and friends don't really understand what you're doing. Other writers are maybe sniping, or other writers are doing much, much better than you. And you feel like, what am I doing wrong? Like, all of that stuff can snowball and just make you stop. Like, we're fortunate because we have each other. And, it's really easy to rally each other. And we also have a really vibrant community. Network. Right.
We rely on each other.
Rah.
I just got to bitch about something.
Yeah. But if like, I wouldn't want to do this alone, because I feel like it's not just strength in numbers with the quality that we're able to produce in less time. It's the whole, it's exactly what you're talking about, Joanna. It's the author mindset. I feel like, the thing, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right? And if you spend time with authors who know they're doing it, believe they're doing it, and are going to do it no matter what, you're just more likely to absorb that. If you're spending your author time in forums or writing communities where everybody's bitching about how hard it is, or about how lonely it is, or about how unsuccessful they're going to be, like, that's going to seep into you like cancer. Like, you got to get rid of that.
And I like to, I mean, I know you guys are now, you're in Austin and Florida, you don't have seasons so much as we do in the UK, but the creative process is a bit more like the seasons in that some, you know, you've got the really sort of high point with the summer and the autumn and the harvest, and then you do have some winter times as well. And the most important thing, I think, and also this comes back to depression, is that you will come out of that again, and that even if the winter is sometimes a bit longer, you will come out of that again. And I think understanding your creative process can be one of the most important things. I think knowing yourself in general is so important. Understanding how you react to stuff. Like, for example, I just don't do forums. I mean, you know, I wait for things to bubble up, and then I hear about it on your show or Selmore Book Show or Lindsay Baroka's show, whatever. You know, I'll hear about things eventually. I'm not going to go hang out on forums because I find it just bombards me. We don't have a TV. I don't ever watch the news. I find that just, it throws me off course. You know, I don't read my 1-star reviews. That kills me too. So I just,
everything you're saying is the opposite of Dave. Do you realize that?
I know.
It sounds a lot like me.
No, you've got the news on all the time. You read your 1-star reviews and stew.
Yeah, but this is the thing. I think you have to, once you know yourself, and I have to protect myself from that, or I won't get anything done. I won't do anything because I feel I need to have more space. And I've gone through a big transition in the last few years. You know, we've moved out of London, we've moved to Bath, which is, I don't know what would it be like in America? I'm not really sure, but it's quite different.
Moving back to Ohio?
Yeah, maybe. It's definitely further out. It's still got culture. but what's interesting is I've definitely moved away from a kind of big hub of creativity to somewhere where I'm now creating more of that online. I'm almost recreating a physical community. And I did want to come back to this because I know people listening are going, well, I don't know loads of authors. How do I have friends like you guys? You know, and I remember back years ago, again, when I was buying Johnny 1.0's programs, I didn't know anyone. I was in Australia. I didn't know any authors. I didn't know anyone who made any money online. I was an IT consultant doing accounts payable. I was super boring. I mean, there was all this stuff, and I was like, how am I ever going to meet people like me? That's just crazy. How am I going to do it? And if people are wondering, I mean, you basically start connecting in a little way. You buy programs, so you get access. But you also, Twitter. I meet so many of my friends on Twitter. And that's been a big thing for me. But you have to put yourself out there in a way in order to attract like minds. So I know that's scary, but I don't know about you guys. I mean, I know you and Dave met with an accident over your...
We've known Dave long enough to know that was planned.
Yeah, it was planned somehow. But this is the thing. It's, you know, finding your people is so important. Yeah.
Well, actually, that's a really good point because, you know, Johnny and I, or Dave and I did meet by accident, but Johnny and I knew each other, and I had done that, that interview when I was trying to promote Yesterday's Gone, which that didn't work, but something really good came out of it because Johnny was aggressive. Like he saw what he wanted and he went out and he got it. He's like, hey, let's start a podcast. Okay, maybe later. No, let's start a podcast.
Johnny stalked us.
Like he pushed to make that happen.
He's far right into us.
Right. Danielle said the word is intense. Right.
That's what I hear.
But that's important. That's exactly what Joanna's talking about. How do you go out and find those people? Johnny went out and made it happen. Like the SPP exists because Johnny decided it was going to exist. And he did that because there was a certain tool set that he wanted, and he thought that was the fastest way to make that tool set happen. And you can't be afraid to go out and, study from the people who are doing what you want to do. And you're as long as you give yourself, I think a lot of people, the problem is that they're trying to take more than they're trying to give. You can't ever do that. Like you should never, ever enter a relationship thinking, what can this do for me? You should always enter relationships thinking, how can I give value? How can I be my best self? How can I teach other people what I know? Because
when I pitched you guys on the podcast, I was, what can this do for me? I was very excited by what it could do for me.
That it has to be a double-edged sword.
Right. I mean, I wanted you guys to benefit, but I didn't go, I'm just being honest here. Like I didn't go into how can I give to Sean and Dave?
Right. But having said that, the only way it happened was because we agreed that Dave and I would just show up, right? You would do the recording, you would handle all of that.
Yeah, he was all prima donna about it too.
So like, you know,
if you can do it so I don't have to do anything.
like, right, because I didn't have time to. I was still working with Lori at the time. Like there was no way I could do a podcast, you know, books and all of this. And so that's it. And Christy has a good point, which is most of us are natural introverts, so that's tough. And that's very true. But I actually think that's what makes this way of going about it easier. Going into a situation offering to help as an introvert is way easier than going into a situation offering or asking what can be done. You know, like I have such a hard time asking for anything. I certainly am not going to ask a stranger for a favor, but I'll offer a stranger help every day of the week. That's easy for me. And so I think that's how you can start those relationships, is just saying, what can I do for you? How can I help? And don't be afraid to, you know, everybody's a ninja to somebody. You know, like let's say you're in law enforcement and there's things that you know about the way law enforcement works, or you're an EMT or something, and you're in these forums and you see people have questions, help them, answer them, you know, let them know what it's like to be an EMT, because that'll give their storytelling a little more veracity. And then when you have a question, people are going to be eager to help you because they know that you're a helpful person.
I have a question and a comment. So just real quickly, something you said a while ago, I just want to highlight. And by you, I mean Joanna. You said something about the idea of the cycle of the seasons, and that when you get into a period where things aren't working, that trusting that will end. Now, setting aside again something like clinical depression, you know, I turned 40 this year, and it took me that long. It's only recently have I kind of realized that I have those natural cycles. Like the last few years, I've kind of really gotten that, where it's like, okay, things kind of suck in some way, or I'm not feeling quite right or whatever. And you just like learning to say, you know what, I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to trust that that's going to end. So I think that that's worth highlighting. But then as far as, I think we all know that who is it? This American Life, I always forget.
Ira Glass.
Yeah, the Ira Glass thing, where he talks about the disparity between, you know, you have your tastes and then you have your abilities, and there's always that gap creatively. How do you suggest addressing that?
I don't think that's so much a mindset thing as you need to learn to become a better writer.
but it may stop you. Like you may be discouraged, right?
Well, actually, this actually does tie into another thing I wanted to bring up, which is ambition. So, you know, like Dave, my ambition is, you know, Stephen King. And when I look at what I want to achieve, and on my wall, it says, you know, how can I build my body of work? So I think it's always aiming to having an ambition that is a longer period ahead, I think is super important, because I know right now, like I have the physical copy of it. I think it's just so good, and The Stand, and I'm like, oh my God, how can I ever write dialogue like this? I mean, seriously, how can I ever do that? And then I'm like, hey, he's 25 years older than me. He's been writing since he was like 19. If I put the work in for years, I will be that good. And also, I will be that rich. Because I know what I wanted to bring up on your show is that you can have two ambitions. You can have a creative ambition and a financial ambition. And what I see too much of in our community is people, you know, it's too much short-term, quick, must make big sales now and big monthly money now. Whereas I'm thinking, okay, do you know what? You know, Forbes richest author list in 25 years, that's a decent ambition. Or, you know, I had Libby Hawker on my show, and she wants to win a Pulitzer. And I'm like, hell yeah, great ambition. You know, to have a big ambition that you think might take 25 years, even if you want to, you know, hit the USA Today list or whatever, and then, or, you know, hit number one on Amazon with your next book, or leave your day job next year, that's all fine too. But I think to that Ira Glass gap is because you have to become better, and getting to that is the patience to learn your craft. And the other thing I talk about in the book is giving up, because there are a lot of people who want to give up right now. And I think the message is, one, okay, either you're going to stick through it and you're going to make it through the down patch because this is what you want to do, or you can give up. you are allowed to go back to your day job, or, go and do something that you love, because, I spent years doing a miserable day job. Why would I do that? I know Johnny's talked about giving up his PhD because it was like, why am I doing this?
And it was so wrong for me.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the thing. For some people, this is not the life. And like I've said to you before, Sean, I listen to your ambition, your story studio ambition, and all your new employees and your software and your this and your apps. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you guys are amazing. But my ambition doesn't match having a story studio.
That's such a good point. So I agree with everything that you said, like with an exponent. Like, that's amazing. And I think that what a lot of authors miss, and you really can't afford to miss unless you're okay spending way too much time and way too much energy and way too many just life doing it wrong. And that's, take a drink, knowing your why, right? We always talk about knowing your why, but that means defining what success means to you, not in year 5, but in year 1. What will make me feel like I am successful? Is it a 25-year Stephen King goal? Is it having everyone using the software we create? Is it just writing 1 book a year in your spare time while you have a job and a family? Is it traveling the world? Like, your goals are awesome. You get to travel the world and write and speak. And that's, exactly what you want. And so you carve out that life. And I think a lot of authors make a really big mistake by they're not really in alignment with what they actually want and what they think they want, or what they say they want, but then their sequence of behaviors doesn't align to create the thing that they think they want.
Well, to what Joanna said, or it was, I don't know if it's you or Joanna that said about the quick success. A lot of people are chasing that quick success. And
many indie authors were doing that.
And I see a lot of authors kind of judging other authors. I mean, not people in our group, because our group is like amazingly supportive.
Our group won't stand for that.
But I see people that are judging others by, what they consider success. Like, they'll say, well, like, if you're not on KDP Select, you're not making it. And I think that's really shitty thing to do. As a writer, do not fall into the trap of comparing yourself to other authors and their goals. You have your own goals. You have what you want to do. Like Joanna said, you want to be the next Stephen King. Just live by your goals, not other people's goals.
That's a great point, Dave.
I think there was, we're in the Olympic period. There was a picture of Michael Phelps. Did you see that? It went around on the internet memes. And Michael Phelps is winning. He's doing his thing, and the guy in the next lane is looking over.
I watched that live. We were watching that live. I'm like, oh my god, how is he? He's so zen. Yeah,
but the quote was, winners win and losers are watching other people winning. So, like, quit looking at what other people are doing. I mean, yes, we need to look at what other people are doing in one way, because we're learning things from each other. But comparisonitis, I get this all the time. I think maybe everybody does. I feel comparisonitis all the time. I just think that's me. I'm a very competitive person, and I also try and fight it all the time. And my number one recommendation for comparisonitis is to immediately go onto Twitter or wherever and start promoting the hell out of the person that you're comparing yourself to, because it does 2 things. It makes you feel better because you're like, yeah, I'm turning this into positive. I'm like, I love them, and I'm gonna send more love in their direction, even if I'm feeling a bit jealous.
Now I'm gonna go on her Twitter feed
and see who I've been treating. No, I do it in other ways too. But also, it helps you to turn comparisonitis into, how can I model that behavior? And we know, good artists steal and all that. We're stealing ideas. We're modeling behavior. We're modeling habits. We're modeling the things that work for ourselves, for the things that work for us. Like, I'm not going to go out and try and create software. I don't think I am anyway. Like you guys are doing. I see your business model and I'm in awe of what you guys are doing, but that's not how I'm going to do it. I'm going to model your work habits, for example, or the way you work together with other people. That's something I'm still learning, how to work well with others. And
you guys, I think it's that thing, right? It goes in with knowing your why, because if you copy somebody else's strategy, but you can only see, even for us, we get on every single week and we talk about what we're doing, and we're pretty transparent on what our goals are and how we're achieving them. But still, it's an hour a week and it's with all the bullshit. How could anybody possibly understand what's below the surface and how deep those roots go and what we're actually trying to do. You can't. So if you copy what we're doing, you're going to make mistakes because you don't know our end game, you don't know all the minutia, and it may not be in alignment with your actual goals. So when you're looking at people to kind of model what they're doing, make sure that you're modeling the right things and that they are harmonized with what you actually want, because you don't know why somebody does something that they do.
Mm.
So you mentioned habits, Joanna, and I'm just, what do you think about habits as sort of an antidote to negative mindset issues? Because I'm thinking if you establish something and you can do it repetitively because you're trying to build a habit, you're trying to build, you have a ritual or a schedule, that can help. It's like, well, I don't have to think about whether I like it or not. I'm just kind of doing this for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I agree to one point, but I am not like you, mate. I mean, you're hardcore. I'm a binge writer as opposed to a daily schedule writer. Like I have a schedule, like I have a file of facts, but I don't schedule my writing so much as a creative time. But what I have been doing in the last couple of months since I walked 100K a month back or so, and it was pretty hardcore. And since then I've been trying to be more in my body. Be more aware. Like normally I think we're all just brains like wandering around, right? And as writers we're really in our heads all the time. So I'm now doing yoga for the first time ever, and as someone who's kind of crazy all the time, I'm finding that practice and that habit to be instantly important, because I do not spend any time like concentrating on being physical or haven't until now. So this is something I'm trying to bring into my my daily habits so that I can actually stop and step back. And I've spent so long doing, and I think this is another thing with indie authors. We spend so much time doing that we stop. We forget to stop and take a step back and think about what are the habits that are serving us and what are the habits that we might be heading off in a completely random direction that might not be serving that ultimate goal. And also I've been thinking a lot about, I know you talk about legacy, but longevity. So for longevity right now, I'm 42, older than you anyway. But I'm aware that to have longevity as an author, we need to be physically fit, we need to be psychologically fit, creatively fit.
Strike.
No, but Dave, I know you're trying.
Wow, she's shitting all over you, Dave.
No, I know.
Fuck you too, Joanna.
But the other thing I was going to say, to come back to ambition and longevity and habits and relationships, is when I think 25 years time, I see you guys being like, I hope that I'm Stephen King and you guys own the story studio that makes everyone's movies. And I that could happen. And I think what's fascinating about this industry we're in is 10 years ago, I probably hadn't heard of any of you. But certainly 8 years ago, I'd heard of Johnny and Sean because of Copy Blogger. And, 5 years ago, I didn't have...
Made me feel old. Damn.
5 years ago, I was still an IT consultant and I hadn't written any fiction. And Johnny was still working on Bialy Pimps. What's so incredible about the longevity and thinking in a bigger time frame is amazing things can happen. So you have to make sure you're around for it. So you need to look after yourself in terms of your mindset and your physical body in order that we're all still here.
Yeah, I so agree with that. I think that we tend to, as a people, underestimate or overestimate what we can do in a year or two, right? And I know I was so guilty of that. 8 years ago when I was writing for Copy Blogger, a year or two seemed like, that's all I'll need. I'll have this thing just totally done.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Right. And
that's the only reason Robin let me keep going, because I kept convincing her. Just one more year.
Me too, Cindy too. And it's so unreasonable. But on the other hand, I think we tend to underestimate what we can do in 10 years time or 25 years time, which is what we're talking about now. And that's true. Like 8 years ago, I could never have conceived of some of the things that we're doing right now 8 years later. Like it just, I didn't have the framework to imagine something like Story Shop. And so thinking in really long, and I think that helped me to really understand, about 2, 3, 4 years ago when we started shaping the business we have now, that we were always like long-term. Whenever we have a choice between making a short-term decision or a long-term decision, we're always going to go long-term, because that 25 years is more important than next 6 months.
I actually want to go a little bit more, and then this should probably be the last thing. We should start wrapping up. But the you mentioned like physical fitness, but more globally maybe is the idea of, as indies, if you're a full-time author, but even if you aren't full-time, within the time that you are an author, like, because even if you have a full-time day job, maybe you have an hour where you're an entrepreneur. It's easy, like the lines are very blurry, and so you'll think this is what I should be doing. And so it's like you gave the guilt of not writing. Well, I should be writing. And then if I'm not writing, I should be marketing. And I should definitely be in front of a computer doing something. And you need to stop. Like, you need to take a walk. You need to do yoga. And it's hard to justify that. And so we end up in this neither nor, where like, okay, I'll maybe do something, but I'm gonna feel guilty about it because I should be doing something else. Or I need a sanity break even. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna watch a half hour of TV within reason, of course. Those things are important, and that's something that's a mindset thing you got to figure out too. Like, where is the line where you take time for yourself because it serves your ultimate aims?
And this is all, I guess the point is, this is a constant balancing act, and we're all dealing with it. We all deal with these different things all the time. Like, you guys are not just on all the time doing all your stuff, and neither am I. We all have our ups and downs, and I think that should be the main message. Like, it's not just the highlight reel, like I love your almanac when you share behind the scenes stuff. I'm a listener to the almanac, which I really enjoy. And, that's the point. There's behind the scenes stuff. This is ups and downs. This is our life. And hopefully this is our life for a long time to come. Great.
So I'll just repeat that Joanna's book, The Successful Author Mindset, is coming soon. Wait! No, is already out and very well reviewed, as are all of Joanna's books. You should go get it. Obviously, this is something that matters a lot, because if you don't have the foundation of mindset, then you can't do anything else. So thanks so much for coming on, Joanna. What else do people need to know about? Anything else?
No, only that, if you enjoy the English voice, I have narrated my own audiobook.
Oh, we can't get away with that.
So I know
I would actually like to. I will. I'm getting that right now.
Well, the other interesting thing is that I'm selling that direct. So I'm basically now, because of, there are some reasons to go professional with audio. There are other reasons to sell audio direct. So I'm playing with the audio model at the moment. Anyway, so that's just something interesting.
Where do we get that?
You can find that at thecreativepenn.com.
Why is that Penn with a double N?
That is Penn with a double N. Or I'm on Twitter at thecreativepenn.
All right. So thank you, as always, for coming on, Joanna. Always a blast. Always fun. Always very helpful. And and then just our call to action is, if you still haven't checked out the Indie Fiction podcast, sterlingandstone.net/IFP. Check it out. That starts on Monday for the live viewers, 22nd. So I'm excited about that. All right. So this will be this episode of the Self-Publishing Podcast. And thanks, everybody, for listening.
Bye.
All right.